First of all, welcome to St. Rose of Lima in Mount Vernon. Here we're working on trying to build a new church, but I want to welcome you here. Here we have the tradition that on Palm Sunday, it's after Palm Sunday that we typically host our quilt bingo. So while that is canceled because of given circumstances, that is a tradition here at St. Rose. And many of us in our lives, we have certain traditions that we have this whole week. So for example, we have this tradition here of the quilt bingo, but on Holy Thursday night, I usually get together with a group of priests and celebrate the institution of the priesthood and the Eucharist after those liturgies. And on Easter Sunday, I would typically have gone to my godmother's house for Easter. We all have certain traditions that have been rocked in our own lives right now. But if we think about this gospel, this Passion Palm Sunday that we celebrate today, Christ had traditions. Christ had traditions in his own life. For example, this tradition of him coming into the city of Jerusalem, coming in, he was a Jewish boy who for his entire life had came back to Jerusalem to celebrate the Feast of the Tabernacle, the feast of the Temple, or the Feast of the Tabernacle on this day. And so he would come into the city every year of his life. Every year of his life, he had the same tradition. However, this one was different. Just like many of our traditions have been broken now, or been changed at least, so was Christ on this Palm Sunday, on this Passion Sunday that we celebrate. He came into the city riding a donkey. He came into the city in a glorious way because by this time, the people knew who he was. They knew exactly who he was, and they wanted to honor him for who he was. But how this has changed, how he probably, perhaps most likely, knew what was going to happen. And well, we do too. We know that we're going to celebrate Holy Thursday, Good Friday, and Easter, that Christ is going to give us the Eucharist, the priesthood, that he is going to die on the cross in a drastic way, but that he's going to rise again on the third day. But people did not know this when he was coming into the city. But we know this, and he perhaps knew this as well, most likely did know what was going to happen. But what is all of this? What is all this? Here we are in a totally changed world. None of us were expecting this. None of us were expecting any of this to happen. I mean, here I am on Palm Sunday talking to a camera in an almost empty church, mostly empty church. Who would have ever thought? But you know, if we stop and we look at it, Christ didn't necessarily, he knew what was going to happen, but he knew he did it for a great way, a loving way. If we look at the crucifix, if we stop and look at what we're going to celebrate this week, Christ gives us love. Christ gives us hope. And those are two things we need more than ever right now in our lives. It's Christ's love and Christ's hope. And he gives us that throughout this whole week. So the timing of this is kind of a beautiful thing. Well, we never wanted any of this to happen. It's a beautiful thing because Christ reminds us during this week that he gives us his love. He gives us his hope. And he gives us that through the Eucharist. He gives us that through the cross, through the crucifix. When we look at the crucifix and we look at it, that is a sign of Christ's pure love and hope of us getting to heaven. So as we go throughout this holiest of weeks, perhaps it's time for us as an individual family to start new traditions, to start new things in our own lives, in our own world, that we too can celebrate this holiest of weeks with our entire family. So today as we go out there today, as we start this holiest of weeks, maybe this afternoon is a good time for you to sit down as a family and say, what can we do as a family to continue these traditions or start new traditions that we have, that we can continue to make this week the holiest of weeks.